Hope everybody is doing well and that life is treating you well and all in that space. Of course, it's the radio show with Mark Lee right here on Pod TV, and we're looking forward to some amazing conversations with some amazing guests. Of course, the weather is very lovely here in Durham, North Carolina. It's about 70 degrees and definitely some spring-like temperatures. We're going to find out how the weather is treating folks in other parts of the world as well. But hope everybody is doing good and thoroughly enjoying themselves and having a good time and all in that regard. So definitely looking forward to some amazing conversations, and we have some amazing guests that will be joining us on this particular edition. So we're looking forward to seeing what they're all about. And as a matter of fact, we know that in one case they have been involved with Prince, and definitely are looking forward to having that conversation, as I am a Prince fan also. So definitely looking forward to that part of the conversation, as well as other things that are taking place in the world. And we do know a number of people are paying attention to the sports world, because definitely there was a whole conversation going around the championship, and that championship that recently took place, in which LSU beat Iowa and all in that space. And of course, some people were paying attention to even social media afterwards, because there was some taunting that was going on, and some people were thinking that it was a justified taunting. Other people were thinking that it wasn't as justified. And who knows, maybe our guests will have some thoughts about that as well. But we're going to find out what folks' thoughts are about a number of things going on in the world. And we do know that some people are also paying attention to what is happening in the global world. We know that there is definitely a number of conflicts that are still taking place in the world, whether that is Russia's continued invasion of Ukraine, some things that are taking place in Nigeria, some things that are taking place with a recent government leader recently losing their position of power, that being the leader of Finland. So there have been now two progressives that have lost their jobs, the one in Finland and the one in New Zealand. And I know that some of the conservatives are quite happy that yours truly thought that they were doing a good job in their respective country. But we're going to find out if folks agree with me or disagree with me or not. But whatever you are and whatever you're doing, we hope that you're having a great time and thoroughly enjoying yourself and all in that space. We do know a lot of folks are concerned about the health of the economy of the world, as well as the health of their own personal health, because we are still in the middle of the pandemic and all in that space. So folks are still trying to maintain good health and definitely doing all that they can to make sure that they are staying healthy, even though we know that a lot of public events are back out in the public. As a matter of fact, one of the places I work at is a cultural arts center, and I know that there have been two storefront churches that have been recently meeting on a regular basis, one on a weekly basis and the other on a semi-weekly basis, or bi-weekly basis, I should say, because semi-weekly would be twice a week, but bi-weekly is when it's once every 2 weeks. So they've been meeting bi-weekly, and definitely, matter of fact, here in North Carolina, we just had a major music festival, the Dreamville Festival, that was organized by J. Cole, and there were tens of thousands of people that attended that in what was formerly a mental health environment. That's because that's what Dorothea Dix used to be, the Dorothea Dix Hospital. I think they had some mental wards as well as some other type of hospital wards as well, but now it is a big park, and they have used it for a number of things. They used it for the festival when it first came out, and I think that was in 2019, and then it went on a multiple year hiatus because of the pandemic. And then there were thousands, if not tens of thousands, is the numbers I was hearing, that were paying some size ticket prices to go see J. Cole, Drake, Waka Flocka, and a number of other artists that were there for that big event. So that's just some of the things that I'm hearing about in the world, and some of the things that are on my mind and all along those lines. And like I said, I've got some amazing guests that will be coming on and sharing some of their thoughts. I'm going to bring on a partner in crime with the channel connection, and she's got a guest on, and then I'm going to bring on Adele as well, and we're going to have some great conversations about a number of things going on in the world. So I'm going to bring on Truth, since we've done some work together, and Peaches is the name that I sometimes know her as well, but I know that she is a big Prince fan and has got a big event coming up in Houston with somebody that has been involved in the music lane and all in that space. So definitely, Truth, if you can tell us a little bit about what you've got going on, and I'm going to bring in Maya, and I'm also going to bring in Adele, and we're just going to sit down and have a chat about a number of things going on in the world and learn about each other as well. So definitely tell us about this big event that I understand is going to be taken a long way away from Durham, North Carolina, which is where I'm based at, even though Pod TV is an international platform. I understand this event is going to be taking place in Houston. It actually means you've got to get over to Houston, since I don't think that Houston is home for you either. So tell us about that love of Prince and how you even came about doing this amazing event.
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me on your show. Um, yes, there's going to be a Prince symposium. First, I'm Author Truth, and Mark knows me by Peaches, as we do another show, as he already says, together. We are having a My Prince Experience symposium with the great Maya. Some people call her Maya McLean. She has worked with Prince for over 13 years before his passing and knows him in all sorts of ways, especially as a brother, a spiritual brother, a mentor. When you work with somebody at his caliber for so long, of course, you get to know him in a personal way. So she is also going to be on the panel of the My Prince Experience Symposium in Houston, Texas, June 10th and 11th. And she's also going to be the entertainment, as she's an amazing singer herself. This event also starts on June 9th, where there will be a My Prince Experience book read of a book I wrote. This book is not available to the public, but you can read the book at the book read and get to know what's in it and understand the connection that led me to write this book, and the connection that's going to be at this amazing symposium in Houston, Texas, June 9th, June 10th, and June 11th.
Sounds like it's going to be a truly amazing event. I'm going to bring in Maya and learn more about her connection to Prince. And like I said, I've got another woman that is involved in the music space as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she's got to say about the state of music, and particularly the state of women in music and all in that space. So hopefully I'll get a chance to play both of their music during the course of this conversation. But let's learn about Maya and what she's got going on and all in that space. So Maya, how are you doing? And tell us about your connection to that legendary performer, Prince, and everything, because definitely you have a direct connection. And I understand you're also going to be performing at this event as well.
Yes, yes. Hi, nice to meet you, Mark, and thank you for having me on the podcast. Hi, Betty. Good to see you. Yeah, so my name's Maya McLean. I am a spiritual life coach, and I host retreats in Mexico. And my former life, I was a backup singer, dancer, choreographer for Prince. So I worked with him for over 10 years and performed on events like the Super Bowl. We did Madison Square Garden. We did a lot of the arenas in Europe. We did a lot of private shows and TV shows, music videos, things like that. I did it with my twin sister. Her name's Nandy, and we performed with him and did that journey for 10 years together. So, yeah.
Sounds amazing and everything. How did you get about working with Prince? I've had the pleasure of knowing a couple of people like Marcus Anderson and others that have also worked with Prince when he was living, and they told me that he was a little bit of a taskmaster, that he definitely had a sense of perfection in the way that he wanted music done and all in that space. So I just wondered if you could share a little bit about your own experience about working with Prince and what that was like working with this legendary performer.
Yes, he was definitely a genius, and very particular with how he wanted things, and very detail orientated, but a beautiful band leader, amazing. The best band leader that I've worked with. It was kind of difficult to listen to other bands and musicians after working with him, because I could notice everything that was missing when it came to the mastership in how he would lead the bands. and I would notice everything that was missing. So it definitely took my ear to a level of, perfection and heightened that for myself. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful man, you know, definitely a genius and a blessing to be working with him.
Sounds like he was truly amazing to work with and everything. How did the audition process go, and how did you first learn about this opportunity and all in that space?
I'd recently moved over to the United States from Australia. That's where I'm from, and there was an audition for a music video that was called Incense and Candles that me and my sister auditioned for, and it was pretty much my first official dance audition. I was working with an African modern dance company at the time, and then my agent set up an audition. So me and my sister went in and we auditioned and got a call, and we got booked for the music video. Mm-hmm.
And what was it like? Like you mentioned that taskmaster attitude, but definitely a lot of folks when they think of Prince, they think about how much of a perfectionist he was, but also how much he really enjoyed having great women behind him and everything. So I was just wondering what your own impression of working with Prince was.
I mean, my personal impression was I loved me and him connected on a spiritual level. So we would have lots of deep conversations about the universe and spirituality. And he actually introduced me to me and the band members one night to the idea of The Secret. I don't know if you've heard of that. There was a movie that came out called The Secret and about manifestation and the power of thought and being able to, pretty much how you connect with it with a positive energy and a mindset, and then you can manifest what you want into your life. So we used to, have moments and lots of deep conversations with him about that. So that was probably the most important part of my connection with him. He would never want to talk about the past. Like it was always about staying in the present. And that's how he was with the band members and how it would work on stage. He said, don't be in the future when we're performing, don't be in the past, just stay in the present. Because if you're in the future or the past, you're going to miss my cues. So he had a definite, it was all about that. Sometimes I would bring up stories. Remember when we did this and blah, 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 and trying to, romanticize past moments and fun stuff we did together on tour. He would go, ew, the past. I don't want to talk about that. Ew. Like gross. Like it feels yucky. And I've had in my spiritual journey now since his passed, and I've gone on my own journey and really learning to listen to my intuition and created a whole coaching program out of it to help others connect and stay in their alignment to their purpose and their high mission for the reason they're on this planet. I've actually experienced what he was feeling back then when he was telling me, oh, it feels gross talking about the past. Like the vibration of it feels off because it's not real. The future and the past isn't real. Only now is the reality.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. At what point did you become a spiritual coach, and were you doing any of this spiritual coaching even while you were working with the legendary performer Prince, and how did your own connection to his spirituality play into your own development? Because a lot of people, when they think of Prince, they also think about his own connection to spirituality. Which is simple and all in that space. I was just wondering about your own spiritual growth and how it played in with your work with.
Can you hear me? It's cutting out a little bit. I missed the last thing that you said.
I was just wondering how much of that spiritual growth that you've had has played into your own development as a spiritual coach, and how much of that working with Prince played into your own development as a spiritual coach.
Well, when I was working with him, I was kind of training in a lot of NLP and mindset and neuro-linguistic programming, pretty much understanding. I don't like the term neuro-linguistic programming. It sounds like you're reprogramming your mind, but it's more understanding moments that happen to you that have you kind of operate on autopilot in the present. So it's understanding your past and your history so you can understand what is triggering you, what your reactions are in the present moment. So I was doing a lot of that training. I did that for 10 years and I was doing it. I think I started working in studying that and practicing on myself. I was doing my own development and self-awareness practices within that for maybe the last 5 years working with him. And we had actually had not a falling out, but we were kind of getting, my own triggers were getting kind of reactive off of working with him at the time. And then once I started doing that work, I was discovering why I was getting reactive with him. And then I wanted to call him up and talk to him about it and clear it all up. And so me and my sister called him and he said, this is going to be a conversation. And then he flew us out to Minnesota and went to an Italian dinner and sat at the table. And I said, oh, these are the reasons, these are my triggers from the past that have been impacting my relationship with you in these moments, feeling controlled and dominated from moments and things that happened in my past that, well, my own triggers and reactions from a little kid that has nothing to do with now. So I got to kind of clear those things up with him. And then he goes, I don't know what you guys are studying, but I like you guys better now, because it just creates healing and synchronicity and authenticity in relationships. So that was a beautiful journey with him. And then I feel like I was doing that journey while working with him. And then I felt like it led up to, as soon as he passed away, it was time for me to move into that line of work. And I was working in production at the time. And I kept, as soon as he passed away, what I heard a message in my mind, and it was like, it's your turn. Because when he died, my mum had already passed away. And these are my mentors. Prince was my mentor. My mum was my mentor. And Michael Jackson was my mentor. And they were all passed away. Prince was the last one. And so when he passed away, there was a huge missing, because it felt like there was no elders for me to look up to and admire and get guidance from. And so when that happened, then I heard that message in my head, it's your turn. And that was the moment that he had passed away. And from then I started doing the work and started just listening to my guides and my higher calling. And then that started leading me into this line of work to help others connect to their intuition and their authenticity and connect with their passion and purpose.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to get to some questions around that as well. But one of the other things I was curious about was, one of the things that Prince was very adamant about was the fact that there is a lot of music control elements of what goes on in all of that space. That's part of the reason that he wanted to create his own, definitely created his own kind of catalogs, and also definitely got away from the establishment sense of the music industry. So it's one that is still in the music industry. How do you feel that we are doing? We know a lot of people are now kind of doing like Prince did and releasing their own music, whether that's on YouTube or Reverb Nation or a number of other places. So what do you think Prince's view would be, as one that worked with him, of the state of music and particularly the state of radio? I've worked never at a commercial radio station, but I've worked at a variety of nonprofit and community radio stations. And I sometimes am a big fan of those for being able to get our views out and the views of independent artists. But I was just wondering your thoughts, particularly when you oftentimes will hear musicians that are like the promised ones, or the ones that are more favored by the radio stations getting all the play, not knocking the Beyoncés of the world, but some of the other more independent people like you don't get the kind of play that I think that they deserve.
Mark, you're breaking up.
Oh, did you
I
catch
missed
any
the
of
last
that?
part. I caught the first half, but the second half was kind of choppy.
Okay. But I'm just asking your state of your thoughts about the music industry in general.
Well, the internet's definitely changed the game, so it's not the same world that we're living in. Everyone can promote their own music and generate their own following, and that was definitely his thoughts back in the day around artists having full autonomy over their own music and not letting labels and radio stations and people taking cuts out of their releases. So I feel like I think it'd have two minds about it, because I know that that's a lot of his mindset around technology and taking it to that level is kind of good and bad, because you can just get caught up in your own, I guess, ego trip when it comes to promoting yourself. At the same time, it's great because you don't need a record label to make money, and everyone is their own influencer, and you can put your own message out there now because of the internet and Instagram and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. So I believe, because of his mindset, and I can't speak for him on now because he's not here, it's not real, but but he did have conversations around I'd introduced him to one of my music producers at the time, and he came and sat him down and said that you don't want to be at that table pretty much trying to get into the industry or getting a record label or being an executive. Like he was really kind of into generating your own audience and your own fan base before you partner or connect with anyone else. Because if you don't have that, then you don't have any power.
Yeah,
It's
that
pretty
makes a
much
lot of sense.
generating your own beacon, your own vortex to generate your own attraction to whoever's interested in what you're putting out, whatever content you're putting out, like people are doing on Instagram and YouTube right now. It's just if you don't have your own people following you, then you don't have anything to bring to the table.
What do you think he would think about some of this new technology that's out there? There are people that are very much interested in the metaverse, augmented reality, virtual reality, and there are even ways that they are being used to bring people that have passed, and definitely Prince is one of those, as well as Michael Jackson, to the audience that they missed it. So I just wondering, what is your thoughts around that, and what do you think his thoughts would be around that as well? Because we do know that there are a number of people that are getting to experience Prince for the first time because of the whole notion of the metaverse and virtual reality.
Well, he was very private and wanted ownership over everything. He barely ever took photos with people or signing autographs. So I felt like he was hanging on. He was protecting himself. So I would think he would be against it. If he's not there, then I feel like he would be against it. But I have connected to his energy through multiple channels, and he does say that he's everywhere. And he said, "Pick a flower, it's me." So on an energetic, that's his. I'm speaking for his human side of the human experience with him, but I'm not sure how he would be as an expanded energy, because when he came through with it through a friend of mine, he was like, "Yeah, pick a flower, it's me. I'm everywhere."
Wow. You've mentioned that, and how much do you think we as a people are connected to our greater energy? I do have some friends. I know that definitely Peaches is one of them. I have some other friends that are in the funk music lane that oftentimes talk about that interconnection and us being connected to the greater community, whether that is what some people might call Mother Nature or what some people might call the divine message and everything. But how, as a species, do you think we're doing in terms of connecting to the the greater expanse and to that divine side of ourselves?
I always believe in duality. Like we're 100% connected and we're totally disconnected. It's kind of like we're in this vortex of sometimes we're there, sometimes we're not, and it's a constant practice because we are born into these human forms, and we're constantly connected. It's just whether our conscious mind and we're in the practice in these bodies to tap into who we truly are.
That makes a lot of sense. How much of that duality are you able to tap into in your own music journey? Because I know a lot of times people will look at musicians as being almost like the living angels, or the ones that are able to be more connected than some of those of us that are not in the creative space. So I was just wondering as to how that plays into your own music development.
I only write when it comes through me. Otherwise, I'm not writing. I only write from an authentic place. I don't create formulas. If I get inspired, that's inspiration. Inspiration.
Right.
My spirit is inspired, so then I'm going to write. Or sometimes my music is my medicine and my healing as well. So if I'm moving through transitions or emotional states or triggers, like I use it as a healing tool for myself, and then that's how the music comes. So sometimes it's a higher download or awakening, or sometimes it's an external inspiration from something else, and sometimes it's my own healing medicine. Mostly it's my own healing medicine.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm imagining that Prince was one of your major muses and probably still remains a major muse, but who are some of the other muses that you have in your life, and how important is it for you to tap into your muses?
It's a good question. I've always been a fan of Michael Jackson and his energy. Um, as a being and an entity, and also a fellow dancer, he was my first inspiration. As far as writing my music, I don't feel like Michael Jackson and Prince as a musician influenced me. As a mentor, yeah, and maybe just the music portion, but not the energy of it. I really enjoy artists like Tori Amos. I love Billie Eilish's energy, her authenticity as a person, and the intimacy of her vocals. I love that. Her music's a bit too dark compared to mine, but there's a tenderness that I enjoy. There's a lot of medicine artists that you might not know that I listen to that play in medicine healing ceremonies, and a lot of yoga artists that I'm tapping into right now. I've loved India Ari and her music medicine, Alicia Keys. As far as people that are like now, I don't really have a person that I'm like, oh, you inspire me fully. It's more people that are probably unknown and guitarists and musicians that no one that are like underground that I listen to.
Speaking of which, and I know that you said that I think you said it was Australia, if I remember correctly, is home for you. How much do you think we are in tap with the music of other cultures, and how much do you try to bring that into your own musical journeys? Because I know that there was a time that we were definitely seeing a lot of music from around the world being integrated even into the American sound. Everybody knows about the experimentation between, say, like a Paul Simon and some of the South African musicians and things along those lines. But are you thinking that we are seeing enough integration of the world's music forms together?
Oh, definitely not. I love Paul Simon. I love Ladysmith Black Mambazo, and I loved how he integrated that. That was what probably I could feel that energy drawn through Paul Simon's music. Like, I don't know if I would have even known. I don't even really know who he is, but because of that sound integrating into his music, I was always drawn to that African, that African essence in his music. But I feel like America's very shut off from the world musically.
Yeah.
With media, no one knows anything. There's like America in general is culturally cut off from the rest of the world, in my perception, with what I see, the news, the media, social media. With Instagram, there's a lot more connection, but algorithms still keep you in your bubble if you're not reaching out and looking for things yourself. But I've been living in Mexico, so I've been down there, tapping into a lot of musicians. And then when I'm in Los Angeles right now, I came back here and found some bilingual radio station when I was driving in the car, and I was like, what's this radio station? And then there's all these artists. Some of them are English, some of them speak Spanish. And then I'm Shazamming and discovering, artists through other means that have different languages. So I'm exploring a lot of multicultural music. Like I love Cuban music, I love salsa, I love African, I love, Indian, I love Asian. Like there's so many different musical elements that I definitely have always been interested in and and listen to on a daily basis.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Who are some of the Australian musicians, or maybe even some of those that from the Latin American countries, that you wish more people knew about? Because I know that there are probably a number of folks that are listening and they're like, I don't know anything about Australian and its sound and everything. And the same with some of the Latin American sounds. So some of those that you wish more people knew and enough.
Yeah. So as far as Australian artists, I haven't been in Australia, so I've kind of met myself. I haven't been searching. There was an Aboriginal artist that I tapped into, and it was a group. It was him and like a musician, lead singer and musician. I don't remember their name, and I'm horrible with people's names. I'm just listening to the music. I'm in the music. I don't even know if I listen to lyrics as much anymore either. I'm just in the sound, and I'm not paying attention to the person to go, oh, that's that person that I love. Like I stroll through Spotify and I just create playlists and I don't even know who half the people are. I'm just listening and then I go, I like that, and put that into a playlist. There's a girl that I discovered called Sandrita. I haven't even researched where she's from, what she's doing. It's really intimate music and it feels a lot like my music. So I've been listening to her. There's another yoga artist called Mose that I like. I generally get drawn to guitarists because I play guitar, so that feels like my vibe. There's a guy called Sam Garrett that I'm interested in. These aren't foreign ones, but there's another girl called Nessie Gnomes that's beautiful, and she speaks Spanish and she does medicine music that's gorgeous. I found a guy called Alexi Murdoch. It was on I was watching a TV series, and I love soundtrack music too. And I just Shazam stuff, and then I just search people and go down rabbit holes. um, who else? There's a girl called Nessie Gnomes, and she's got some beautiful spirit music. Who else? I'm on my Spotify right now, so I can remember them all. I do have Ladysmith Black Mambazo. I was diving into them again. I'm like, I miss them. And now he's the lead guys. I think grandson or son is leading the group now. So
Yeah.
they've all the generations are following with that. Um, who else? Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that
a
gives us
and
that gives at least some.
Birdie, Tubby Love, some of the what do you call it? Some of the people from Hawaii. I love a lot of those artists that come from the heart chakra. Like there's a lot of love, heart energy in Hawaii, in that continent, and those musicians and people. It's really unconditional love. And there's also a guy from Hungary called Istivansky, and he does like Tibetan throat singing.
Mm.
And it's really like ambient sounds, and his shows are really like sound healing shows. So they're kind of the artists that I'm attracted to at the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of great and amazing artists, and hopefully, folks who are writing those names down that go back and watch in our replays and catch some of those names and do some research on them. You had mentioned, and I actually have friends that are in that industry as well. Some that are in the West Coast, some that are here on the East Coast, the film industry. So, is that something that you have been researching and looking at doing yourself? Because we do know that everybody, of course, knows that big movie Purple Rain that Prince was in about his own life and everything, but definitely that is a avenue that many musicians look into, is both the video games and the movie soundtrack. So I was just wondering, Maya, is that something that you have been exploring for your own career?
I just got off and working on a film actually in Los Angeles. It's called Code 3, and it's got Rainn Wilson from The Office in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like it's a dramedy based on 24 hours in the life of a paramedic. I was working in production, so I was behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. I haven't been in front of the camera for a while. I've just been, doing a different world, and I love working in production. Like it's just a lot of fun to connect and work with hair and makeup and all these departments. So that was the biggest film that I've worked on to date on the production side. But as far as being in front of the camera, I haven't been in that space. I've been working on my retreats at the moment. So I host chakra healing retreats in the jungle in Mexico. And I have 3 of them coming up in October, which is really healing. It's vibrational healing, meditation, yoga every morning. We have shamans come in and lead a Temazcal ceremony, cacao ceremony with music, and I teach vocal empowerment, helping people open up their throat chakra and sing and connect to their authentic voice and how to speak their truth. I teach body movement and authentic dance and connection and personal embodiment in your body. And yeah, I have some other beautiful facilitators that are working with me and sharing their medicine as well. So that's kind of been my focus.
I think that during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people that were connecting to a lot of their various dimensions. Because a lot of people will say that we are definitely physical beings. We are also mental beings. A lot of times we are emotional beings, and they definitely have, as you just alluded to with these workshops that you're doing, a spiritual side as well. So I was just wondering, what is your take on that? And do you think that these kind of world disasters have gotten us to grow closer to our various connections and our various aspects of who we are as humans? I've even seen some people that are getting more attached and closer to their animals. I've had even some friends of my own that have called me like almost a animal empath or a pet empath, and I guess it would be more of an animal empath, as I don't currently have any pets and everything. But I was just wondering as to your thoughts around that and whether that's something we are connecting more to.
I believe we've all got our own gifts and our own areas that we get drawn to, and with our own channels and connections. Like if you're an animal empath, then you that might be your arena that you're called to. So I believe that when we tap into that, and when we sit and we sit still and get off social media and actually be with ourselves and create those sacred, intimate spaces for ourselves, whether you're alone or in community like I do in the retreats, it really opens up that pathway to connect to something greater than ourselves and our connection to the oneness. But I do believe that technology, I'm kind of in two minds about it. I can see that technology could go in a negative way, depending on how we guide it, and it's up to us. But I think if we balance out our spirituality, and it's kind of like the external and the internal are expanding at the same time. So when technology grows, so can spirituality. But I think we need to keep that balance, otherwise we can lose ourselves in the technology.
In the work-life balance is something that is oftentimes talked about in life and everything. That whole work-life balance and everything. And I don't know your own uh, status, children, and marital, and all of that. But whatever it is, I do know that you, because you mentioned her at least once or twice, that you have a sister that you're close to and everything. But how do you manage that work-life balance? And is it something that you have had to struggle with, or is it something that you're able to deal with on a regular basis? And what advice do you give to people that are coming to your retreat about that work-life balance?
It's a good question. So for me, it's funny that you're saying balance, because that's my intention for this year. I've been on a spiritual journey for the last 7 years, like heavily, and now I'm balancing myself back into my grounding and my roots. So I've been because I lead these retreats, the chakras, I'm doing my own work even when I'm leading. So I'm not sitting there separate, being a teacher and a know-it-all. I'm doing my own work in the background while I'm leading and facilitating these retreats. So for me, my grounding and grounding into my roots and having that balance is what I'm working on right now. So it's beautiful that you use that word balance. But what I feel like we can do it in a couple of different ways. How I've been doing it is like I have my times of work, and then my times of play, and then my times of self-care, usually throughout the day. But depends on what your lifestyle is and what you're choosing. Like when I came back to LA in January to work on this film, it was like 16-hour days, 5 days a week, and no time, and even some work over the weekends. Sometimes I'm finishing at 1 a.m. and getting up at like 5 or 6. So it was like a 3-month block of left brain, on computers working. So if your lifestyle is like that, then you can go, okay, now I did squeeze in at least 15 minutes of yoga every day, because that was just my commitment, even on the weekends. And that was my one practice that I hung on to, and my daily gratitudes while I was on that film. But I did not have time for anything else. But that was my choice, because I really wanted to work on that project. It was grounding for me. And it came at the perfect timing. But then now I'm like, okay, when that's done, what do I do now? Okay, I get it. I'm getting up in the morning and working out every day, doing yoga and physical workout. And I went on a complete like liquid cleanse last week as soon as the film was done. So when that time period was over of that block of work, then I'm like, okay, time to go back into my self-care. So you can kind of have seasons, or you can balance it out through the day. Some people have morning practices, which is beautiful, where you can get up. Sometimes I do like 30 minutes of meditation, then move into at least 30 minutes of body or workout. You can also add 30 minutes of learning in the morning. That's also a good thing, where your brain is the most awake in the morning, and you're retaining information and learning something. Maybe it's reading a book, listening to a podcast, whatever it is that you want to do. But doing something for your mind, your body, and your spirit is what I tell my clients. And then in the retreats, when people come, we get into the habit of eating healthy. So we've got organic, healthy meals all through the retreat. And then every morning we're doing yoga. So we're up in the morning early doing yoga, and then we have a beautiful, healthy breakfast, and then move into the rest of the day of the programming. But people leave those retreats going, I need to keep maintaining this. So then we created like a support group where we're all accountability, and we're committed to doing yoga every day.
That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of times people go through various trials and tribulations. I know that Truth may have some questions for you as well, and I've always got
actually, Mark, I don't have any questions. I mean, we're here to. I'm not here to be the host, co-host. I'm here to You're
I
gonna ask
appreciate it.
questions, and
Oh,
also
I
say
appreciate
hello
it.
to Lynn. Lynn's been saying
Oh
comments.
yes, yes,
Let
Oh,
her know
hey.
that we can
and I've
see
been
her.
putting Lynn's comments up and everything. And I was
Okay.
She
wondering,
just wanted to say
my
we can see her. Yes,
yeah,
we can, Lynn.
yep, and
Mhm.
definitely I've been seeing the comments, and she's been being some great comments and all in that space, and definitely will have to get those names so they can see that we are seeing her in all of that space.
And
Maya, I'm
also,
going to bring up one of
I'm
I'm
posting
going
the
to bring up
event
our other guests
in
as well.
the
And
comments.
one of the other guests, one of them actually had to get off, speaking of technology, because unfortunately they bumped their coffee machine against the computer. So now they've got to rush and try to figure out what's going on with their computer. And
Oh,
that was Idale, who has actually worked with Culture Club, and Sandra Bernhard, but she'll be appearing on a later episode and all in that space. But sometimes that energy can be disruptive, even when you're trying to balance food and other things. So apparently that's what happened with Idale, but we are looking forward to having a later conversation with her later on. But we do know that trials and tribulations are something that a lot of folks go through, and all in that space. I did want to bring up Tressa so she can share some of her story as well, and y'all might have some thoughts and things. But she's involved in. She is a author as well, and she is a Christian author and has been involved in a number of very interesting issues, and has written a book called Looking Out from the Inside, the United States versus Tressa Olivia Parker. So she is definitely a transformational speaker and has done a lot of amazing things. I'm trying to figure out how you're going to take on the United States, but she has had some chaotic situations and has created a life of freedom and happiness. But we're going to bring Tressa on and continue our conversation. And I think that there might be some like minded thoughts about what Tressa's gone through and even what you are doing, Maya, as well. So, Tressa, glad that you were able to join us and tell us, how did you manage to take on the United States, and a little bit about this book and everything, all in that space. And then we'll go from there and continue our very enriching and very fun conversation.
Okay, great. I would love to. Well, I didn't know the law or the Lord, so let me start out with that first. I found myself in a very bad situation. I kind of grew up in a broken home, ended up leaving home at 16 years old, ended up in a juvenile detention center pregnant. Um, the guy that I was going with was 21 years old. I was 15 years old. Just trying to search for all the love in all the wrong places, I guess, because my mama, she constantly told me, don't be out with this guy and everything. And he was actually a drug dealer. So I ended up having two children by the time I was 19 years old. And he was very, very abusive. Didn't want me to work, didn't want me to do pretty much anything. And I found myself in this bad situation. And so I ended up, of course, trying to get out of it. And I ended up asking people to, hey, let me try it so I can make some money on the side. So I ended up, of course, they allowed me to try to make the money on the side because they knew what was going on. And I just wanted them to trust in me so I can get out of this situation. So I ended up getting out of the situation, making a lot of money because it was large quantities of drugs, unfortunately. And I ended up indicted by the federal government after I had got out of this situation. So at this time, right before this had happened, I had all the nice home, the cars, you name it. I had it all. It was the riches of the world, what they call it. But I was sitting in this large house, and I was just on my knees crying out to God. And I had one of my sons came in one room. They was 10 and 11 years old at that time. One came in the room, and then the other one came in the room, and they asked me, Mama, what's wrong? And at that time, I just broke down crying and I said to myself, God, if it's a God, I'm tired. I'm tired. Help me. I'm tired. And I found myself indicted by the federal government 3 days later. Um, I can't understand it, but I thank God for it because I realized when I was in that cell, I was thinking back and I realized I had just prayed that 3 days before. Now I'm in a cell where it's not even a window to look out of. But 3 days before that, I had everything, but was not happy. So I ended up, I had remember people always talked about Psalms 23. And so it was a minister that came in there and out of my little tray hole because they had me in a lockdown cell for 23 hours, um, a 23-hour lockdown cell and only be out for 1 hour. So when the lady came in, the minister, I asked her, could she come over there where I was? And she had through my little tray hole, I was talking to her. And I asked her, I said, do you know Psalms 23? And she said, yes. I said, well, I didn't have any paper, but I had a pen. So I asked her, can she recite it to me? So as she recited it to me, I wrote it on the floor of the jail cell. I stayed up all night long reciting Psalms 23 until I memorized it. So I constantly kept saying Psalms 23 to myself constantly. I started began to learn, pick up the Bible and learn about the Bible. As I was learning about the Bible, the Lord started speaking to me in my spirit. I was in a jail cell, and actually, it was about 100 degrees outside in the winter. And I knew I was saved because I had said the salvation prayer. But for some reason, I just could not, I didn't feel saved. I guess I wanted this feeling. But anyway, the Lord took me to Acts, the book of Acts, where he talks about when you receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit, that you will receive this power. And you'll be an effective witness for him. So as I was praying and praising God, just thanking him for saving my life, for helping me and guiding me, I heard the wind come in the sail. And when I heard the wind come in the sail, it was something from my feet all the way up to my head. And it was like in a cold winter. And I just started speaking in an unknown tongue, and I just couldn't stop it. So I just kept holding my mouth down, trying to stop it. But at that time, I knew I was having a realization of what the scripture spoke of about being baptized in the Holy Spirit. So as I lay there on the bed, I could feel like a Roman motion upon my heart, where God said he would take that heart of stone out and give you that heart of flesh. So I felt the Roman in it, like a basically like a transplant. So I constantly kept reading the Bible. At that time, I wanted everybody to know what I knew and what I was learning about Christ and the Holy Spirit. So I started teaching Bible study right there. I didn't wait till I got out of there to start a ministry. I started a ministry right then and there in the prison. So as I kept studying the Word of God and learning about the things of God, the Lord has spoke to me because He was teaching me about words and how I needed to understand about the power of words, because the power of life and death is in the tongue. So as He was teaching me about words, I constantly kept reading and studying the Bible, and I wanted to only speak what the Word was, what we were supposed to speak according to the Word. And so as I was doing that, in Mark 11:23, the scripture says, have faith in God, have the God kind of faith. And I say unto this mountain, thou shalt be removed and be thou cast in the sea. And I do not doubt in my heart. I believe I receive those things which I saith, and whatsoever I saith, I shall have. So I took the mountain because at this time, it was almost time for me to be sentenced. And the Lord had already showed me in a vision that I was in a spider web. And the spider web had me so bound that I could not move. And the reason why the spider web had me so bound is because the federal detectives wanted to talk to me, but I was scared to talk to them because I would be telling on myself. So I had been saying I didn't know anything, which I was lying because it was really me. So when the Holy Spirit showed me bound in the spider webs and so entangled, in my spirit, He said, speak the truth. When you start speaking the truth, the webs will start breaking, and it will no longer be able to hold you. So, as scared as I was, and I felt like a complete idiot, I did tell them the truth. So when it was time for me to get sentenced, um, because they was telling me I was facing 30 years to life, but when it was time for me to get sentenced, the prosecutor said that he was gonna give me 16 years. He recommended that to the judge. At that particular time, the judge took a recess, and when he took a recess, he came back and he gave me 132 months. So I'm counting, trying to figure out 132 months, which is 11 years, when I'll be able to see my children again. So when I went back into the holding cell, I was just had my head down and I was just sitting there thinking it's going to be 11 years before I see my kids. At that time, one of the guards came to my cell and he said, how did it go? And at that time, the Holy Spirit spoke up in me and he said, it's not over yet. So he was already teaching me the power of words. So at that time, I told him it went well because I didn't want to speak anything different. So when I end up in Alderson, West Virginia federal prison, first thing I see is a bunch of helicopters all flying around and everything. I'm like, what is going on? When I opened my door, the person that opened their door, because it was time for a mail call, it was Martha Stewart. So everybody was trying to befriend Martha Stewart, but me, all I wanted to know at that time was Jesus. So everybody's rushing to her and trying to befriend her, but I'm steady trying to focus on Jesus. So I constantly kept reading and studying the Word, constantly kept having Bible study. My attorney even wrote me a letter telling me that I'm basically going to have to do the time, and because of me basically going to have to do the time, she's done all that she can do. I never spoke a word to I never spoke a word of that letter. My friends read it, but I never spoke it because God was teaching me the power of words. I constantly kept saying to my mountain, because my mountain was that 11-year prison sentence. So I would tell myself, I have faith in God. I have the God kind of faith. I say unto this 11-year prison sentence, thou shalt be removed and be thou cast into the sea. And I do not doubt in my heart. I believe I receive those things which I saith, and whatsoever I saith, I shall have. So whatever that mountain was, I knew that God wanted me to put my situation there because He would remove that mountain for me. So as time went on, it was about 5 years that went by, and I constantly kept telling everyone that I'm not going to do this time because I believed in the scripture. Because I came to God as a little child, as He tell us to. I was so naive and didn't know anything before then. I totally believed what He said in His Word. So I worked at a dentist office at the on the prison campus, and one day the telephone rang. And when the telephone rang, it was the lieutenant down at the bottom base, and he had told her that Tressa's. He said, "Is Tressa there?" He said, "Yes, she's right here." And so she had told him that they was coming to get me. I was going home. So he was handing me the phone because they wanted to speak to me. So when I picked up the phone, they said, is this Tressa? I said, yes, it is. They said, Tressa, your judge went back and reduced your sentence so low you got 30 minutes to get off our compound. We have a guard already coming to get you. So by the time I hung up the phone, the guard was already there at the door, and I was home.
Well, everything. I know that Truth is very much of a spiritually based person as well, and I can tell that Maya is also. But this is for all of you, and I know it's part of your bio and everything. But how easy do you think it is for people to find their purposes? Because I know that one of the things you do, Tressa, and I'm imagining that you do it as well, Maya, is help guide people toward finding their purpose. And I do know that there are a lot of folks that are walking around doing jobs, and sometimes the jobs are not even their true purpose in life and everything. And I sometimes get frustrated with that because I do see some people that are kind of going through the motions. They're not really doing what they have a passion for or even an interest in, and all in that space. But I was just wondering, both of you, and I guess I'll start with you, Maya, but I do want to hear from Tressa and even you, Truth, as well, is how easy do you think it is for people to find their purpose?
I think people sometimes overthink it, especially clients that I work with. Like they think it's this big thing that they can't get to or it's hard to attain. But I believe once we really, truly connect to who we truly are, it kind of, your purpose and your mission or your calling just kind of comes to you, like what Teresa just said around her being in the jail cell and reading and learning and pulling it towards herself. It just awoken within her, and then it's already who you are, but sometimes you just might not be paying attention to it. And what I teach my clients is that it's generally something that ignites a spark of light or excitement or passion or fire within you, where you're just like, it's kind of ends up driving you. Like it's not something you can think about. It's just a calling that you're called into action. And you cannot, like she's like, I didn't wait to start a ministry. Let me just wait till I've got all my ducks all lined up in a row and figure it all out. Makes it look, I get all looking good. I'm out of the jail cell. No, I'm going to do it with the next person at lunch that I'm going to sit next to, and I'm going to give them the word and teach them, the mission that I've already got. And I've already been anointed, and it's within me. And now I can give that and pass that on to others. And it's just being of service through something that you're passionate about or something that you get anointed with or you get a download, whatever language, it's all the same thing to me. I don't discriminate between any belief systems or religions or any spirituality. I think it's just all different languages of communicating the same connection to source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And we all have our fire and our passion that we can turn into a service for humanity that ultimately helps uplift other people and yourself.
Yeah. What is your take on that, Tressa? How did you find your purpose? How did that go about for you?
Well, I think is it Maya?
Maya.
Maya, yeah, I think she's absolutely correct. The one, probably the major part that I forgot to say is the first thing I did is I looked in the mirror. I began to question myself, and I think I asked myself all the right questions. How did I get here? I'm pretty sure a lot of people have been through this, asking what's wrong with me. It's nothing wrong with me. I have the power within me. It's just that I had to develop that power and figure out what is my purpose? What am I here to do? And I use my pain and my suffering to turn it around for God's glory. So it was very, very easy for me to find my purpose. And that's what I tell most people to do is stop this blame game. Let's stop pointing the finger. Let's examine ourselves. Let's figure out where we're at. Let's figure out what we like to do. And let's move let's move in our purpose, because we all have a purpose, but the power is within. But if you don't want to do that self-examination, you're going to keep doing like stumbling blocks. But it all starts with looking in that mirror, looking at you, not blaming mom, dad, whoever, the situation. Things happen, but we get past it and we move on. And when we start examining ourselves and looking in the mirror, because we're adults now, so we can take responsibility for our lives. And when we look in that mirror and start examining ourselves, it pushes us to a whole nother level, which she said is that light. And that light starts burning brighter and brighter and brighter. And then I began to know that this was my purpose. I didn't go through this for nothing. Yes, I went through the situation, but this light is for somebody else. And I want to carry it and continue this torch and keep it lit.
Love that. I also love the metaphor of when you fill up your own cup, then it starts naturally just overflowing, and you've got to give that healing as you're healing yourself and becoming self-aware and taking responsibility and owning everything that isn't working for you. Then it just naturally kind of overflows, and then you have to give it to other people. And it's what
Mhm.
we say in our ceremonies and retreats and in our healing spaces, that the language we use for, similar to what you said, was like your medicine that you give to yourself as you're healing yourself, then that becomes someone else's medicine. Like the things that
Yeah,
work for me, I can't help but give them to other people. Once I'm
that's just
studying or I'm yoga, oh, that was working for me. Oh, my me connecting to my intuition, and that took me on a whole journey of expansion with my music and downloads and traveling and helping and healing people. That worked for me. Now let me share that with other people. Oh, this diet
just
worked for me, but this exercise, it's just like it's endless of how we can contribute to others, but we have to do it with ourselves first. So we've got the medicine within us, and then we're just like, we can see the results that are happening for ourselves.
No, I have a
yeah.
question, but actually for both of you, and I definitely want to hear from Peaches as well. But
Oh, you
Tressa,
sure you do.
how important was music in your space and everything? Because, like I said, Maya has definitely worked with Prince, and I know that you were definitely. I'm thinking even when you were in those prison cells, that maybe music and even spiritual music might have been an important part of your saving grace, for lack of a better term, and everything. But I was wondering how important was music to your own journey of healing.
Oh, yeah, music, it did so much for me. Worship music, I mean, it took me to another level, to another height. Even now, I wake up in the morning with songs in my spirit. And it's like God guides me through different songs in my spirit. And I mean, I can't even, I just got chills all over me. It's just, I can't explain how much music um worked with my healing process, with my mental status, and just it caused like freedom. That's the best way I can describe it. It caused freedom within, because I know that this worship music and this music that plays inside of me, because that's one thing that God taught me, is that we have these inner faculties. We have the inner eye, we have the inner ear, we have our mindset, and these inner faculties have more power than the outer faculties. Yeah, we can see what's going on the earthly realm, but when you start dreaming and having visions and your imagination starts taking place, that puts you on another level where you can actually receive the life that you desire. And music for me, when I'm praying about something or thinking about something, if I get a song up in my spirit, to me that's like a guide that God has guided me with that song. And I just music. I don't think I could have did it without music.
Mhm.
Yeah. Peaches.
Well, I'm going to break it to you all. I remember all of this. That's my gift from God. I'm very awake, very conscious. Um, I remember that shirt you were wearing, Mark. I remember Maya, and I remember you. So let me tell you what God can do. God can awake you, unveil you. That's why I'm just so very quiet, because this gift has just really taken me back since I woke. Um, but I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not going to just jump off this cast or jump away from anything that I recognize, because I know this is God. God's going to give you the way forward and show you and open it all up to you. It's not to be afraid of it, it's just to embrace it. So, for the last years or so since this has happened, I've been awakening by the minute. It's rapidly happening. How do you adjust to being in the real time? Maya talks about being in the present a lot when I first met her. I'm in the present, Maya. And you know what that feels like? It feels very outside of myself. Like I'm over here watching myself over here. But that's just the way God wants it. Now, when it happens to you, you'll know. You may not understand. But I will tell you, your testimony today, only God could do that. I know the reason why I met Maya and her sister, God, and through Prince, the connection, because Prince left this realm in a spiritual. He might not have started off that way, sexy and half naked and very controversial, but he changed his life before he left and led me to Maya and Nandi and to a lot of other people that was in his world. And I think he has something to still be accomplished here, which is why me and Maya are still joined. We have a little bit of work to do besides human things. There are spiritual things. So I'm sitting back listening to myself, listen to you guys in like a replay, but it's okay. I love it. I've embraced it. And I love seeing you again. Maya, I always love seeing you. And when we first met, it wasn't as heightened, but it's very heightened now. So I have to be honest. In saying that, God is good. His power is great, greater than what you can imagine, what you could know. It's not just being present, it's being absolutely sure that you're in the present. It's beyond that. So I'm gentle with it.
Yeah.
And when we have this, and that's why you should come to Houston. And Teresa, I don't want to say your name wrong. Teresa,
Yeah, Tressa.
you're
Tressa.
welcome to come to me to the symposium because I think the combination of what Maya has and been gifted with is so beautiful, and the combination of what I have and what I believe is a center point person who walked this planet named Prince, who is now so aligned with the godliness. You call him God, however you want, but the higher power has now joined in a bigger force. It's not about us; it's bigger than us. So you're welcome to come, Mark. I think you need to be there. You too, Teresa. You bring everybody. Um, this is big. It's bigger than all of us, but we all have our role. That's
Everybody has their role. Yeah,
and
no
you got
doubt about
yours.
that. Yeah.
Bringing
And
us all together now. So it's time to make this manifestation happen. We're not here for just nothing.
very
Just
true.
touch me. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank God. And we'd love to have you because there's not many people that can go in and come out like you did. Okay. And so you was given God's grace. You was given God's leniency.
Mhm.
Now you have to be a testament to it. Your work now goes beyond you, which you did when you was in.
Mhm.
You took it beyond you, and you said, "I'm not going to wait." Like Maya said, "I'm going to touch somebody right now."
Yeah.
That got you out,
yeah.
and God says you ain't going back.
Yeah.
You going forward. Isn't that what Prince used to say? Move forward, Maya. Move forward.
Said
We have
stay
to
in the
move.
present, not even move forward.
Well, keep moving forward. Stay in the
Future isn't real either.
present. So I feel the connection here, Mark, even with me meeting you. I told you this when we did our podcast
Mhm.
together. I remembered. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember you. I like you.
Yeah,
I'll,
there's all kinds of connections in all of that space. I've actually felt that I've known Maya before as
yeah,
well.
doesn't this
This is
all
my
feel
first
sort of
time.
deja vu-ish?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
uh,
But one of the
is
things
it,
I was curious about,
that's
and this is for everybody here, including yourself, is I am a big believer in ancestral connections, and some people would say that that is where Prince has moved on into the ancestral grounds and all in that space. I know that definitely Phil Freelon, who is Pierce Freelon, a very well-known rapper's father, and was the architect of that whole Washington African American Museum, as well as Baba Chuck Davis, who is a well known dancer. And I could go on naming a number of others that are in the creative space that have passed on, but I still feel a deep connection to them. Even my grandmother, who passed way back in the early 80s, but was the lady that founded the first Black library in Raleigh, North Carolina, our state capital and everything. But I definitely feel that connection. So I'll start with you, Myers, because I'm thinking you still have a connection to Prince. You said that you had a conversation with Prince about a flower and everything. So how deep is that ancestral connection, and how much of that plays into not just your connection to Prince, but to other people in your life that have passed on and all in that space? So I was just wondering your thoughts about our connection to the ancestors. And I want to hear from Tressa as well, because it seems like me that as I heard her speaking earlier, she was speaking about her, I think it was either her mother or her grandmother that not be with us now and everything. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that ancestral connection. So I'll start with you, Maya, and then I definitely want to hear from Tressa as well.
I'm still working on that opening for myself. I've always been drawn to channels and being able to download, and creatively, and then also with my sessions, I definitely, open up and I get downloads for my clients. But when it comes to being open to other messages and things like that, it's happened a few times, but I really need to be in that practice for myself to stay open. I'm very much an action taker, and I produce and I create events and, my retreats and stuff like that. So sometimes I can be in my left brain. So for me, I really need the space. But when I'm in retreat space and in these journeys where I'm facilitating and receiving and hosting and doing my own healing, I've definitely had connections, when I'm in that safe space, in where I'm not on my phone, where I'm not, interacting with too many people, and it's just me and nature. I've had downloads. My mum's come to me in one of the retreats that I did later last year. She ended up coming to me, and I ended up integrating her into my being, which was really beautiful. I got to see her, and I could feel her and see her face, and I was touching her with my hands. She came and was she's always been I felt like she's always been around. Like, she comes through feathers and messages through sometimes other people. I've had a lot of channels talk to me and give me messages from my mum. Actually, one of my guests at my last retreat was channeling my mum and was giving me messages within a session. We're all just sitting there, and she goes, "Your mum's here." And I said, "Okay, what do you got?" So lots of people come to me through other people, and I've channeled her myself. She did have some conversations with me, and she wished that she was with me in this physical realm to experience transformation and the space that I'm holding for others to heal in retreat. So she did share that with me, and I really got that I've had multiple lifetimes with her, it was embodied in this awakening when she came, and she, she's been my husband, my mum, my dad, my uncle, my brother, my kids. Like, she's been multiple different relationships with her, and that became very apparent when she came to me. And then Prince has come to me too. I think I had a retreat last year in March, and he came to me and gave me messages for like 3 of my guests at the retreat, was talking to them. Was talking to me while I'm trying to host a retreat. I said, "Can you just leave?" Like, I was we had just finished like a ceremony with the Temescal, and that was something about that was opened up, and then he came through because he had a message from one of my guests and shared what he shared. I'm not going to share it because it's kind of a bit private for them, and it's kind of keep those boundaries, but he shared stuff for her, and then he was sharing stuff with me, telling me to dance. And I'm like, I'm trying to host my crew because I've got all these guests down in the jungle in Mexico, and we have to move them over to this water ceremony under the cenotes, which are these underground water caves, and we were doing like a water blessing, and everyone was finished that one, and I was supposed to guide everyone to the next one and take care of myself and eat food, and because we're all dehydrated from the Temescal, and I had to replenish my own body and host everyone. And then he's coming through telling me to do things and he's telling me to dance, and I said, all right. So I start dancing on the spot where I am. It's just when you're down in the jungle and you're all just exploring and you have the space to experience this stuff, I'm dancing and dancing in a circle. He used to do that spin with his feet and turn and do that thing with his hand. He was telling me to do that. I said, all right. And so I was half resisting him because I'm trying to manage my people, and we had to go down rocks, and I wanted to make sure they're safe, and I'm holding space for my guests. I was like, oh, can you just and but he just kept coming. He just said, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. I said, okay. I said, okay, I hear you, I hear you. And I just had to sit down, and I skipped to the whole water ceremony once everyone was down there. And I just sat down, and I was down near the rocks in nature with my feet on the earth and was holding onto some rocks. And I said it, and I had to say it out loud because it was kind of like my brain's in production mode, taking care of people, and I had to snap out of it, and I had to verbally talk to him and say, okay, I hear you, okay, okay, I've got it, I hear you. Yes, okay, okay, yes, yes, yes. I'm like receiving him, and I was getting goosebumps. And then, and he was saying, "I'm just going to keep coming." And I said, "Okay." And then, of course, there was a guest that actually was a Prince fan standing next to me, watching me. He didn't go down to the water thing. He was just holding space. He was kind of checking on me, making sure I was okay, because I'm having my own awakenings and downloads while I'm trying to host a retreat. and and then I could feel his energy, and then they connected, like Prince and him. And then I was like, oh, okay, here we go again, because he's just doing his own thing through me. And then I'd walk over, and then I said, okay, Prince is here. He knows you've got some questions. And so then he started asking questions of Prince, and then I was giving him the messages of what was coming out, and asking questions. And he actually had a purple shirt on, so Prince said, I like your purple shirt. And so they were talking, and then simultaneously all my guests were down near the water, and they were doing this water blessing with a shaman, and they were doing chanting and vibrational sounds that they were building up. And I wasn't fully present, but the vibration of their singing started cutting out the connection with Prince coming through, which was really interesting because everything's vibration. So that their collective energy was taking over the connection to him. And so I was just witnessing that. And then my guest that was there is like, is he still there? I said, hang on, let me just check. And then when the music and the singing kind of subsided, then I could hear him again. And then I said, okay, yep, he's still here. It was just the vibration, and the channel was cut off because of the collective singing. And then he had more questions, and yeah, so that was a beautiful experience. And he just said, whenever I'm open, he can come. I just don't choose it a lot. I need to be in an open space and vulnerable space, and to have that kind of come through. But whenever I talk about it, like I get goosebumps, or every time, like I'm getting goosebumps now. Like it's just the knowing, and I can choose it whenever I want to. But I love channels. That's why I connected with Truth too, because
makes
a beautiful channel, and I've witnessed her gift, and I've done sessions with her, and I think it's magical, and that's part of my passion, and it excites me, and I follow where I get called to go, and I'm like, yep, there's a vibration there that I pay attention to, and so
Girl,
that's
you
my
wait, you wait till we do this. I think we're gonna really have a great.
Sounds like it's going to be an
I
amazing
can
event
feel
and
the
everything.
I can feel the tension of it, or not the tension, but I can feel the vibrate. Even if it's just me, you standing there, I just feel like something's big gonna happen. But Teresa, yeah, yeah, your story is very touching, and
And Tressa, have you had any experiences of that connection to an ancestor or anything along those lines? And just out of curiosity, because I know that some people that are into religious music are also fans of Prince because they recognize that he was a person that had a spiritual connection and definitely had a certain spirituality of his own. So I was just wondering whether you were a Prince fan as well. No saying that you have to be or not be, but I was just curious about your own thoughts about that particular artist, as well as any experiences you had with your own ancestors.
Oh yes. Who isn't a Prince fan? First of all, I absolutely love Prince. Yes, yes, I was definitely one of his fans. But yeah, with me, it's I think with me is a lot of it's generational. And I think God opens up what He tends to open up based on the person and where the person is. The one that I really really focused on a lot is because my children's father was so kind of mean, starting out and very abusive to a lot of people. But when I got home, he was one of the people that I purchased a Bible for, and I led him to salvation. He actually was beat to death, and I didn't know that he was beat to death. But in the middle of the night, like 12 o'clock at night, he came to me and told me, "I'm sorry for everything I ever done to you." And at this time, I didn't even know that this had happened. So I know what she's saying is real. I know it's true. But I think it's just based on what God is trying to reveal in your life and where He's trying to heal you and uh, where He desires to keep you going forward at. And to me, that was a healing um, part for me because of all the things I went through with him. But to know that he's in a better place and that he actually came to me and said that, it took a lot of the stress off me, talking to my children because they're his children, and to just let them know that he came and we didn't even know that he was had passed away, but he was already gone. And so when I tell this story, it's just amazing that what God does to heal his people and through the communication that he has. But I think a lot of it is generational.
Mhm.
And I think also that sometimes we think that the people that we are, our family is, yeah, but I think we have a soul family. People that are, I think God kind of sends us out. He has like an A person, an alpha, I call that. This is, you have to be the one that pulls everything together. You got to take care of this, that, and other, and then you'll that's your human family. But your soul family could be somebody doing the same task with other beings. And
Mhm.
so God will align you with your soul family, because He has you out there doing things. Because it takes, some people aren't at the level of other people. It takes another person to get them there. What May is doing, she's lifting vibration. Now you are spreading the word, and I'm doing the word, and I'm conscious. So I'm both conscious channeling and trying to balance, keep myself balanced. Mark, do you have dreams and visions? You're
Oh,
asking,
I told you,
let's
I
hear
told
that.
you, I've already got connections to my
I
grandmother.
was
I talk to them regularly, and I see dreams and different other thoughts that are going on in that space. So yeah, I try to stay in tune with not just the dreams, because I do believe that dreams can bring a lot of reality to spaces. I've had spaces where I've had dreams. One of the things that I think that you do a good job of, and I'm thinking both Tressa and Maya may do it as well, is too often we will have the dreams and then we will not remember them during the course of the day. So that is something I'm trying to get a little
write
bit
them down
better
as
at,
soon as
and
you wake
everything
up.
is actually writing them down, because there have been messages that have been sent that I have to really re-remember them or get them back later on, and all in that space, because I do know that we often oftentimes don't do enough of that, absorbing the moment when the moment happens. And as I'm hearing Maya talk and Tressa talk, they are both engaged at the moment and are probably in tune, even though I did hear Maya say that there are times that she lets it slip. And I think I even heard that from Tressa as well. So we have to be conscious of that. And like you said, to write them down and let folks get those messages. And I also think that the messages don't always necessarily come from our human interactions. I had said earlier before you got on, Tressa, that I have oftentimes had a connection with the animal world. I imagine that when I leave this apartment later on, I will run across certain robins and maybe certain other animals, and sometimes they can give deeper messages than we are even aware of. One of the stories that I give about that is that, and I'm going to go back in time, and this might have been at a time that some of you were maybe even teenagers or maybe even younger than that. But at the time I was in my, I want to say, the let's see, 2001. So we're talking 22 years ago. So I would have been in my late 30s at that particular time, and that was when 9/11 took place and all of that. But shortly after 9/11, one of the things that I greatly remember, and I've had conversations with friends of mine of different ages, and for the most part, they have said that they had a similar experience, was that um, the divine force will oftentimes send messages through the animal kingdom and all in that space. So one of the things that I remember about 9/11 was it took place on a Tuesday. And I remember that because I was going to get pictures at a radio station that I was part of, and it was the day after my show. So my show is Monday. The attack was the day after, which would have been Tuesday and everything. And that being said, shortly thereafter, and I've had this conversation with a number of friends, nobody remembers any animals being out like for a day or two. It was like still air, still skies, and a number of other things that took place. And it was almost as if the divine one sent a message. Humans are about to get really stupid. Y'all might want to go into hiding and
I
all
don't
into
remember
that
seeing
space.
animals, to be
Huh?
honest with you. I don't remember seeing animals, to be
That was my point.
now that I
Nobody
think
saw
about
any
it.
animals right after the attack. Nobody saw any animals. People also noticed that on another time that the humans got stupid, or if there was a human attacks, the animals did the opposite because we were sent inside. So what a lot of people also remember about the beginning of the pandemic 2 or 3 years ago was that they did notice more animals being out and about because us as humans were told to go inside to protect ourselves and everything. So of course the animals were like, "Hey, there's no cars, there's no people around. We can go and have a field day and all in that space." So when we finally did come out, but we weren't necessarily going in our cars because there was a lot of travel limitations. So if you were walking, you might run across a rabbit or a deer or even other animals that people didn't see often. I think that I remember in some of the places like where there are channels, like Italy, people seeing like dolphins and otters and well, not otters, but definitely dolphins and whales and others that were coming more inland because we as humans were shut in and all in that space. So that was two of my animal observations that I've noticed and everything. I don't know whether any of y'all would agree or disagree based on your own life experience during those two times and everything.
Well, like
Mhm.
I said, I now that I think about it, and maybe because of all the ruckus, but there really wasn't any. I don't remember any animals I saw. But then New York doesn't have a whole lot, but I didn't. I don't remember
Yeah,
any
like I said, y'all
birds.
got tons of pigeons, and I would almost put money on it that the pigeons had gone and died. But
I mean,
what
animals are intuitive too. They are
we,
intuitive in their own ways, and just like human beings, we're intuitive. Like in our backyard, we have a lot of birds. I love birds. I love rabbits. Birds are very smart. They're very intuitive. In fact, they can speak to you. You can hear them. You can listen. Um, you know, God has given everybody an intuitive side, and the human, the animals. This is with all creations of God, even some of uh, that are of good, have the opportunity to rise up their vibrations and become good beings. Um, so yeah, you know,
well,
this thing that
yeah, that's actually one of the philosophical questions that I had to myself and everything. And like I said, I don't know the answer to this question, but they say that redemption can come at any time, at any point, and all along those lines. And you just mentioned that Tressa with your own ex and what he went through and everything. But I sometimes wonder, and I'm not the one to make the judgment, that is a God call, and I would never claim to be God in any sense or form or fashion of the word. But I do sometimes wonder how far does redemption go? So, hypothetically speaking, if the worst dictator that we ever knew that did the most atrocious things in the world was to have to come to realization that what he was doing was purely evil and he did things to atone for what he did through prayer and other things, could he have escaped the wrath that he was probably heading to and all in that space? And I know a lot of folks would say that there is no way in heck that a Hitler or a Manson could make it to heaven, but there are other people that say that, hey, Manson's still living, and if Manson wants to atone right now, he could conceivably make it to heaven and all in that space. So I guess I'll throw it to you, Tressa. What is your thoughts on that? Is there things that are totally beyond redemption in your own philosophy and in your own thoughts, or is there some things that are um, you're not gonna escape with that no matter what you do?
Yeah, I basically believe that no matter what you do, if you come to that realization and you ask for forgiveness and you walk that out in your life, I absolutely believe that it's no way that you won't end up in heaven. I believe that we all can be redeemed, we all can be restored. I don't think it's a way that you can't be. I often think about it because, we say our Heavenly Father. I think about it in a natural perspective. So I have two sons. So no matter what they do, they're still my sons. So I feel it's the same way with our Heavenly Father. If we come to this realization, ask Him for forgiveness, and we do as He tells us to do in order to be His child, how can He not be our Father anymore? We don't throw our children away. It's still that connection. So I totally believe that um, everybody has that saving grace. It's just dependent upon them.
What's your take on that, May? I was seeing you get contemplative, and I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Could you repeat the question?
Is there any such thing as a non-redeemable offense in the world, or do we all have the ability to be redeemed no matter what we're going through? Like I used the example of Manson and Hitler, is who I was referring to.
Yeah, I have the same mindset as Teresa, which is I believe everything. I'm always open to love, and everyone can re-tap back into the love side of themselves. We've all got darkness, we've all got light, we've got to recognize both.
Mhm.
We are in the duality, and sometimes when we push away the darkness, it can come up and bite us in the ass because we're not accepting the dark side of ourselves too. People say going through the dark night of the soul, and I think that's a beautiful journey to go on, and it's painful. But when we resist it, then sometimes we can try and get in our high and mighty and think we're all perfect, or try to stay in the positive all the time instead of just allowing ourselves to go through the cycles of being in this human body. That's how we evolve. We've got to go through the dark to get to the light, and we can't always live in the light because then I have times of, I'm just going to stay in my elevation and be a good person. I'm like, no, right now I'm just fucking angry. I'm going to curse. I'm going to get down and dirty and fuck it. Just sometimes you just got to say a big fuck at,
Yeah.
and get real with yourself and say, yep, I was an asshole there. I was being a dickhead in that moment because we're not perfect because we're in these human bodies, and that's okay too. That's a part of the whole journey. So we can get dirty and messy, and people used to judge Prince when he's running around with his ass cheeks hanging out. I used to judge him, when I didn't understand or get him when he was out in those phases, but he was awakening people into their sexuality and sensuality and worlds that had come from like an uptight reality, and it was pushing boundaries and limits before his time. And that's parts of human expression and our animalistic and human side, and you can't always be in your high and mighty spiritual evolution. You've got all these worlds that we choose to playing, and I believe we're here to have experiences on my medicine journeys that I've had. Like I got downloads of, you're here to experience life in all these different perceptions. Sometimes it's good, bad, right, left, high, low, it doesn't matter. Here to have all these different realities and journeys, and all of it's welcome. There's no spirit. God is limitless, and we can have all these different interpretations. Maybe in one season you're a Christian, the next season you're a fucking prostitute. Like the next, it doesn't really matter. Oh, you're over it. I'm like, I just want to, I'm grounding into my human more now, because I'm like, I've kind of been out of my human, so I'm integrating my spirituality with my my grounding and my earthing side, and I'm going through experiences that I haven't experienced before now, that I'm like, I've never tapped into that. Oh, and that's beautiful there. And I'm turning things into magic because I just get to now in these human realms that I haven't played in before. But I also had blocks, and I call it spiritual bypassing, that I've been learning, that I personally have been spiritual bypassing in certain areas where I ignore human realities. And I've gotten wake-up calls about, I've been painting the world how I want to see it rather than how it is too, and accepting reality for what it is. And I'm always there, let's lift the vibration and we're going to create heaven on earth and blah, blah, blah. And I'm all in my fantasy land, and it's possible. I'm not saying that I'm still not creating those realms, but I'm also like, that's kind of also my ego too. And it's not just sitting there, that person's actually going through something hard, and there's traumatic, like an ancestral trauma from their ancestors, and they're human and their upbringing. And I can't always just rise above, and let's just hang out up in the clouds, and, and it's all good up here, because the pain's going to come back and kick you in the ass at some point if you don't do the root work and, the ancestral trauma and healing. And, so I'm dancing in all of those different spaces, and I believe it's redeemable.
And that makes a lot of sense, because one of my favorite songs, I've actually had people that have critiqued the song, because I actually think the song is wishing for a very wonderful world. I think it's a world that Prince would have enjoyed. It's definitely a world that the person that sang the song was imagining in a positive sense. But one of the lines in the song is, and I hate to say this, Tressa, but the line in the song is, imagine a world with no religion, because a part of what happens sometimes in religion, not all the times, is the division part of religion. So I've had some friends that have criticized me for being a fan of Imagine. That's the song I'm talking about, the John Lennon song and everything, because I've always been a big fan, because it is describing a world that is very idealistic, and part of that is that it is less divisive. And we do know, whether it's the United States or various other parts of the world, that there is a lot of division, and that sometimes even religion has been used as part of the division. We can use that, look at the Crusades and a number of other things. So I just want to entrust it. What is your take when you hear songs like that that are expressing some of the negative aspects of religion and the divisive nature, even though you are definitely a Christian counselor? And can you see some of where people might want to have that idealistic world?
Yeah, well, I talk about religion in my book a lot. I actually hate religion.
Oh,
I think it's all based on relationship. It's the individual relationship that you have. And I think that's how I ended up out of my situation, because it wasn't religion, it was relationship. I was guided, I was led, I was talked to. All of these things happened to get me out of a horrible situation that I was in. It came a lot of humbleness, to listen to what was going on and to try to get clarity and understanding so that I can walk this path out. But I actually hate religion. Religion turns people away, um, to me, from the true God. It turns them away from what the real reality is. It's like a um, it's like a monopoly to me. It's not
mhm.
anything that really encourages. I think it dampens people, and I've seen it several times. I've actually got put out of churches because I don't do religion. I do exactly what I'm told to do, or what I'm the relationship that I have with my Savior. I do those things, and religion. I've never been a part of it and don't want to be.
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you because I left religion alone as well. I have no religion. I just serve the higher purpose of whatever is told and brought and channeled down to me. I
Mhm.
think religion is become to me what I think of separation. I think we people have fought and died for religion and really don't know what they're doing, what it was for.
That's right.
And so when I became much more conscious, I just said, I'm not going to be
Right.
labeled in under any
That's
religion,
right.
and I made that decision a long time back. But
No, not only
I
that,
understand what
but
you said about it.
no, I agree with both you and Tressa and Peaches. But not only that, but religion sometimes does a double standard. I've actually brought this up on a couple of the other shows as well, because to me it makes no sense, and I am very glad to be among you three ladies and everything. But if you go to a lot of churches, and Tressa, you just mentioned having two sons and everything, and I do know that whether it is the rules around divorce and the attitudes around divorce by some of our church leaders, or even the attitude of some of our church fathers, because I have been on some male retreats, and they are basically, if I can borrow an old R&B song, encouraged to shop around. And then they are told and telling the women in the same church to be
Mhm.
pure as driven snow. That to me sounds like a contradictory message. So I'm going to tell the young lady to be
Right,
pure as
Right.
driven snow, and you can tell the guys, yeah, go date that one, go date that one, go date that one. And it seems like it is a contradictory message that comes down. And some folks in the church have said, no, that's just a few churches here and there. And that may be the case, but I've heard it too often for me to believe that it's not a almost prevalent message and everything. But Tressa, you've been in some of these churches. Am I far off in your attitude, or do you think that there is a double standard that is going on?
It's totally a double standard. I actually call it religion and tradition.
Mhm.
It's nothing. It's nothing based on spirituality. They're not. It's like you're not searching for the spirit, or the trueness. It's the traditional things that you're trying to uphold that doesn't make any sense at all. So I actually, most places I go, I tear religion and tradition down. So that's why sometimes I end up getting put out. But I know it's based on relationship, and that's why I do exactly what I hear to do.
I love that, Tracer, because you're out of the box. You're just present. You don't need to be in a church to have your direct connect to spirit, to God.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
not like it has to be in this organized
Mhm.
religion that's kind of about money and control. And when you're really connected, you can feel when you're feeling dominated by something that isn't true. It's not
Well,
authentic.
yeah.
It's
Well,
if
I
it's got
learned
an
that
ulterior
because
motive and
mhm.
Mhm.
Well, I learned that because remember I told you I was in a cell by myself. There was no preacher. There was no. minister. It was no one. It was just me. And it was this relationship that brought in that power and that wind and started giving me this revelation, started allowing me to see the things in the spirit. I could hear it. I could hear the spirit speaking to me. There was no preacher there or a church.
I
It
love
was
that you're doing this because that's what I do. You can feel it coming down the back somewhere, like the physical energy going, oh, I can feel it's coming in. So
yeah.
fun.
So
Oh,
I actually have
beautiful.
a lot of pastors and stuff that ask me, how did I get all of this? Because my book gives a lot more detail and revelation
What's the
about the
title of
things
your
I went.
book, Teresa? What's the title of your
It's
book?
called it's called Looking Out from the Inside.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful
So
title.
they,
Beautiful.
Looking out. Might want to put that in the chat. Looking out from the inside.
from the inside, yes.
And that's
So
actually one thing I was going to ask at the end and everything. But one of the things I was curious about, and y'all have all kind of alluded to it, but I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts about it. And it's something we've talked about on a number of the shows that I've done is too often, whether it is the voice from above, the voice of God, the voice of the ancestors, whatever you want to call those different voices that we hear and everything. I personally think that we get too caught up in what other people are thinking, and we don't oftentimes listen to the voices that we should be listening to, and we also get caught up in the both inner critic and the outer critic. So I'd love to hear all of y'all's thoughts about that. One, listening to the various authentic voices and how we can be in tune with those authentic voices, but also, and I'm sure that all of the three of you, because I know I've dealt with it as well, have had folks that have told you, like even Tressa, when you were writing this book, people were like, nobody's going to buy the book. You're talking about going against the government. Why are you even bothering against going against the government? I'm sure that Maya, there were probably people who were like, Prince is long gone. He's past the due and everything. We don't need to have these conversations and all in that space. So I'm sure there might have even been family members that were going like, no, we don't need to have this brought back up the past and everything. And I'm sure there are people that are even questioning your past because there are people that will try to throw those connections in and make assumptions that aren't necessarily the case whatsoever and everything. So what do you do when you are facing those critics, whether they be the inner or the outer critic, and all in that space? And I know that Peaches has definitely had that as well. Tressa?
um, well, I think when you have that relationship, your confidence is so strong within that nothing on the outer perspective can affect you. I've had so many different things come at me or say about me about the book. Who who are you, like you say, to go against the United States? But I know it wasn't really me. I had someone to go against the United States with me. So it doesn't affect me when I hear people say this, I hear that, because the confidence inside me is so strong and so in depth that I know it's true, I know it's real, and unless you experience it or feel it, if you're not one of those persons that people that have that, you may feel a little awkward or try to defend yourself. But I don't need a defense because it's so strong within that I know He's taking care of everything. So I've seen situations, even with family and different people, who didn't believe all of this was real when I first got home. But now they call me for advice, calling me for everything. So it just takes a little time for them to see it or for it to show up for them of your real reality, because you're different, you're changed. You really have this relationship. And when you just ignore it because you're so strong within, eventually they come around.
It makes sense. What about yourself, Maya? Because I'm sure that there were people that were automatically making assumptions. Because I do know the rumors that circulate around Prince and Princess sexuality, so I'm sure that you got targeted by some of that as well and everything. So, what are some of the ways that you have dealt with the kind of negative stereotypes that people will have, and that kind of critics that are always going to target you, sometimes even because of associations?
I actually feel quite blessed because I haven't experienced any of that. I don't know whether it's because I'm just living in my own bubble, but I feel like I've never had much flack. And if I did, I probably didn't even recognize it because it can't even penetrate because it's not even within my realm of awareness. Like even when I was little, I remembered people. I feel like there was some racism towards me and my sister, and I didn't even know because I was so innocent and ignorant to racism that I didn't even probably know it was racism. I just thought it was maybe just regular teasing. So I don't know. In my reality, I don't feel like I've gotten any negativity towards me in those ways. I don't know. It just hasn't happened. I haven't had people doubting what I do, judging it. No conversations from family. Everything's accepting. I feel like I'm blessed to have a beautiful family, but I also feel like I pick my moments of when I have these conversations. Sometimes I don't talk about this stuff with certain people if I feel like they're not ready either. I'm not here to bash people into my belief systems, but I'm going to just share when I share, it's kind of like I'm aware of when the audience is ready
No,
for
that
me
makes
to
a lot
share
of sense.
what's ready, so that I'm not penetrating or pushing stuff into people. I feel like I did in the beginning, but I didn't feel like I got any flack from anyone when I used to push my beliefs onto people or my awakenings. Oh, this just happened. You should try this. But I do it in such a way that it's like innocent. It's childlike innocence and genuinely wanting to help people in my excitement, and the energy that I'm carrying is so pure and authentic that even if people were triggered, they've nothing to say, because I can still feel that at least I believe that it's something good, and they can't hate me for it either. So I haven't verbally heard anything back to myself that
That
was
makes,
anything negative from anyone.
that makes a lot of sense. One and curious about it, we saw it a little bit recently, like I mentioned at the beginning. I do follow sports and everything along those lines. So I'm gonna actually throw this one at Pete just because I'm sure I have some thoughts about it and everything. But we have sometimes seen a double standard in the way that people react to things and all along those lines. Because we think we saw it with this recent women's basketball championship, because there was a star athlete that did a little bit of taunting, and I will not say that she did not taunt the other athlete and all in that space, but the other star athlete was a European star athlete, and they definitely had done some taunting of her own. So in my mind, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. But there has been some pushback on Angel Reese, the athlete, because she did the taunting. But if you've been watching the tournament,
Uh, you kind
sometimes
of,
a double standard, different things that are going on.
yeah. Well, my take on that is, I kind of stand side by Maya and Teresa. I'm not here to push anything on anybody, and I have been through several different scenarios of double standard,
Mhm.
but there that was the unconscious me. Now I'm awake. Now I'm aware. Now I have a spiritual lead. Now I know that God is the greatest gift to me. He's given me, and I'm just moving in such a fast pace that I'm not worried about anyone else. Um, and then you asked me a question at the beginning of the show with Prince. He came to me with dreams and visions and all this different stuff. And this is I'm the nobody in here. May I? She's worked with him. I'm the one out of the room that he connected to. That people are probably wondering, where does she? What does she have to? Well, that's what the book is all about. This is symposium is all about, is to reveal this mystery, and that's not a mystery to me, but it's something that I think that will let people know it's not God is so magical and mystical. You think you know everything. Someone on the other side of the whole different globe could be somebody else's mentor and
Mhm.
be connected. We're spread out among the verses, so we are here to do the task. It's designed that way. So I think that a lot of people who have had any doubts, I'm inviting them to this symposium and to the book read. Because in the book, I talk about what Maya talked about, Prince spirituality, how he was free, how we needed that. That was um, actually something he needed to do. There are two sides of us, and we, just like she said, we have to embrace it. But I do believe, this is my last take on this, I do believe that we will spin around in a circle until God has awakened us and showed us the way. Although when we don't, we will repeat life, repeat the
Mhm.
things that we're doing, repeat the same things over again, the same people. And I think that's where it kind of breaks for me. Yes, I'm in this, but I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. You understand? So it's a difference. Being in the world is being sort of blinded. Being of it means you are awake. God is leading you. Spirituality is guiding you. Your awareness. So so I don't really worry about that anymore.
Mhm.
This event is important. I have tried to put events together before, but I think this is it for me.
Yeah,
Um,
this event
this
will
is
be a
it.
tremendous success. It'll be a
This is it.
tremendous success,
I'm
and
not worried about it no more.
yeah.
So,
Getting ready to wind down. We got just a few more minutes, and I definitely
mhm.
want y'all both to. There's a question I asked everybody on this show just about, and it's a very simple question, but I'll get to that in a minute. And of course, the social media and the way that folks can reach you. But before we wrap that up with those last two questions, this is for definitely Maya and even Tressa as well. There is a notion out there that there are tons of coaches, and I do know that coaching is a very important. And I'm not saying that we don't need coaches. Every good team, every good business needs a good coach. But there has been some conversation about how everybody is a coach of some sort or another, and have we reached the saturation point with coaches and all of that? So I just wondering y'all's take on coaching and whether it is something that we will never have too many of, or do we need to be aware of the types of coaches and be selective in the coaches that we pick? Because that is a conversation that I've been having where everybody is, life coach, health coach, business coach. There are a number of other coaches out there, and I'm not knocking the fact that we do need coaches, but I do sometimes wonder if everybody that is claiming to be a coach is actually a coach. I have no doubt about Tressa and Maya. There are others that I may have doubts
I'm
about.
a
But I
conscious
guess,
awakening coach, so I'm a coach too.
yes, and you too, Truth. I do have
So,
awareness of you as a coach as well. But what is your take, Tressa and Maya, and even you, Truth, about the nature of coaching? Because it did become very much of a big thing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. Go ahead.
oh,
Go ahead, Maya. Go ahead.
my perspective on it is, I believe we're in the age of Aquarius,
Mhm.
which is the age of enlightenment, and the traditional ways that we educate each other is different because of the internet. And what I see is people helping people, and you don't have to go to a school or kind of like going to a church. You can just talk to the person next to you, and they can help you. So I look at it like that. And whether people are trained to the nines and had 10 years of coaching experience, or whether they're teaching from their own experience, I think it's all valid. Um, and that's kind of my perspective of what I see. I'm not putting any limits or making anything right or wrong. I'm just like, oh, but when people were never out there just helping each other like they are now that there's the opportunity because of the internet to connect with multiple people around the world, and just give your gifts and what you've been trained in, and give it away to someone else. So on that higher perspective level, that's what I see happening in the collective consciousness. I'm like, why has everyone got positive memes and talking about positivity and empowering themselves and empowering other people through their own direct channel, instead of, oh, I'm working under a corporation or a bigger entity like a church or a corporation or something like that. People are breaking out into their own businesses and discovering what their gift is and how they can contribute. So I kind of look at it at the coach realm. You can call it a teacher, a coach, anything. The coach word is literally just a teacher teaching the knowledge that you have and giving that medicine to help someone else who may not have that specific skill. They might not be a doctor, they might not have training in these areas, but they've got training in these areas, and they can give that information to someone else that may impact their life.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Tress, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but before I get to that, one of the things that I've noticed is there are people that are getting new skills that are not necessarily college skills and all in that space, but they are actually doing quite well in that. I know some folks that are in the augmented reality, virtual reality, and metaverse spaces, but they may not necessarily have the college degrees. And sometimes I think that those degrees can be overranked or over accentuated if you've got this skill set, because we're seeing people developing a lot of skills that are pertinent to this day and time, to what Mayo was saying earlier, that are not necessarily on the college track.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with Maya, because I think it's the gift, like she said, but as well as the experience. I have a BA in psychology, but my BA degree doesn't do anything compared to my experience. So I think it's not a matter of how many coaches out there. I think it is the gift and the experience with it. Forget about the schooling and all of that, because we often go to school and learn the same books and everything. But the gift and the experience is what makes the coaching experience, where you transform that next person, or you're sharing your gift with that next person so that you can actually see the transformation in their life. And that's what I use as my gift and my experience, so that I can see the transformation on that next person.
Yeah, that makes sense. Truth, any thoughts on that? And then, like I said, we got just a few more minutes till I get to the last couple of questions that I give to everybody and everything. But any thoughts you have on that, Truth?
I agree with both Maya and Teresa. Coach, we need all the coach we can get, and whoever's authentic, people um, will know, and who don't understand will know. I mean, you have to know yourself, but then God has always put guides on the earth, however, and prosper from Moses to Jesus to everyone. So maybe we're not calling it the prophets and saints. We are coaches in a different way, but God will use us whatever He shall will. So people, we need it, because the ratio of Maya, Teresa, and me on any given planet is not as big as the amount of people that need people like us. Trust that.
That make,
People need us. They need the guidance, So our ratio is very not big. Our gifts are very unique and not given to everyone. To Maya, there's thousands. To me, there's thousands. To Teresa, there's thousands in need of hearing what we have to say. And there's each of us has a different perspective on it. But God is the biggest puzzle you ever make, and each of us make it up. So yes, you know, all three of us could be at the same event. And I guarantee you might be the one, person there, or many, but you'll get something from me, you'll get something from Maya, you'll get something from Teresa, and it'll all be the pieces of a puzzle that you'll need. And you'll be like, yes. So we're needed. Just be thankful that we're thankful. And I'm just saying this for me, but I know I'm thankful. But be thankful that God is that merciful to where you allowing us to give these gifts. He could just take us, and where will some people be? You won't be anywhere. Not to say we are holy or endowed, but we are needed here on this planet in this time, especially in this time. So coaches, I'm for the coaches, and whoever aren't authentic, the people will know. Who are real, and I feel realness between me, Maya, and Teresa. Nice to meet you again. I could feel your spirit through the television set, and Maya, I've always felt very connected to you. And Marc, we when I met you, I already felt close to you in a sense, but people will know, and then they can gravitate to whoever they want to. But I don't think there could never be any enough of us in any
that,
capacity.
that makes a lot of sense. Uh, Maya, this is for you, and it's the question I ask everybody, and then I'll go around circle as we wrap up this show. Fun. It's been a treat as always. Definitely, when I get a new guest, it is always fun when they bring a certain energy and a certain enlightenment. So I'm definitely glad to have you and Tressa on, and hopefully you will come back on some future shows as well to share some of your other journeys and some of the other things that you are doing. That is always a standing invitation that I give, particularly to those that I connect with and all in that space. So definitely feel a connection to both you and Tressa. So hopefully you will make a return trip on this show as well as some of the other shows that exist on Pod TV. That being said, if you can tell folks how they can reach you on social media, any projects or products that you have coming up. I'll definitely know that Truth is going to mention the Houston event, but anything else that you have coming up. And the question that I, as almost one of my personal missions, is that we know that there is a lot of turmoil going on in the world. I actually alluded to a couple of them during the course of this interview, whether that's the war in Russia and Ukraine, or whether that's the COVID pandemic, or whether that's a number of other things that are going in the world. So one of my personal missions is to give people a message of positivity and hope. And so that's what I try to get everybody to do, is to give a message of positivity and hope in these very troubled times. So I'll start with you, Maya. If there are ways that folks can reach you, any projects that you want to share, and hopefully one of these times we'll actually get to hear your melodic voice or get to see some of those dance moves on a future show and all in that space. But any the messages that you want to share about social media and a message of positivity, we would definitely love to hear those.
Thank you so much, Mark. So you can see in my handles down here. My Instagram is these ones here, which is at Maya McLean, and that's my personal Instagram. So you can message me there. And then Light, which stands for Live Your Highest Truth. Your highest truth is to always remember to live your highest truth. That's my company name, which is called Light, and you can find me, my coaching workshops and online program. I've got a 6-month coaching program called Passion to Purpose, and I help guide you through your Sufi journey, your spiritual journey, let go of all your limiting beliefs, any past traumas, move into a state of self-love and empowerment, and then help you connect to your intuition and your direct connect to spirit. And then help you move into what is your purpose. So that's what that program's for. I have openings if you're interested, and you can jump in with this journey with me for 6 months. So you can just message me in on any of those handles. My website's there too. And you can see information on my past retreats. I do currently have a waiting list for my retreats, and I've got 3 retreats launching in October. That's going to be held in the jungles of Tulum in a beautiful eco resort with a freshwater swimming pool and cenotes, yoga studios, healthy eating every day. And I have a beautiful program with facilitators where we take care of you and, take you on your spiritual journey. So I've got those dates opening up here soon, probably in the next week and a half. The websites pages are getting finalized, and I can send you guys that. So if anyone has any information and you want to get on a call to learn about how my Passion to Purpose program or my retreats could benefit you in your life, if it feels like a calling and you want to connect, just hit me up on any of those moments. And just keep remembering to listen to your intuition and trust yourself. You have God within you, and you have a direct connect. None of us are any special. We've all got direct connects. It's just whether you want to work that muscle and really open up and surrender to receiving, your own messages. And that's what we're all here for. So it's beautiful connecting with you all and everyone out there listening. And thank you, Mark and Truth and Teresa.
Yeah, greatly appreciate it. Definitely great insights that you gave and everything. And who knows, maybe you and Tressa could get me off of this DoorDash and fast food realm that I've been in, because I know my food habits have been horrible and all into that space. But Tressa, any thoughts about ways that folks can reach you? I know that you also have a business that you have as well, because I had actually seen that and mention that name. So if you want to mention about Revamp, definitely I would love to hear that in the closing remarks, as well as any message of positivity that you would like to share, and any thoughts that you have about ways that folks can reach you.
Yes. Yes, my company is Revamp Novelties. And it's actually, what I do is I go around and I do transformational speaking. I speak at different places all the time. Like I have the coaching. I have a website. My website address is right there, www.tressamitchell.com. I do have a thing where you could subscribe to my my newsletter, as well as I do have another tab where if you want to work with me, because I do the coaching, and my coaching is basically creating a blueprint for your life, for your freedom and your success. Starting with where you are, finding out about your inner power. And what I do with the Revamp Novelties is I take a lot of books, and I actually have people to take my book and I send it back to the prisons and the jails, and letting them know that they have this inner power. You don't have to sit there and wait, or you don't have to sit there and say you're going to do all this time. You have the power to change your life and transform your life. So that's a lot of what Revamp Novelties is. But also we have the people that are out here in the world that's not in a physical prison, but they're in a prison in their mind. So I do a transformational speaking when I'm asked to go to different places to help them transform their mind, because that's where it starts. We got to renew our mind and understand our energy in the inside. So I do the coaching, this transformational speaking, and my book actually is an international best-selling book. So you can get my book on my website as well.
Beautiful.
Appreciate it. And a message of positivity that you want to share. And I can definitely relate to what you were saying about reaching out to those that have gone through the system. My younger brother, and actually the only brother that I have is, and the only sibling actually is done that work for a number of years because he actually works here in the Durham area trying to get to kids that are unfortunately falling into that gang trap and getting them out of those gangs and all in that space. So he's been doing that kind of outreach work. I want to say for almost a decade now, and it might have even been longer than that. But we have definitely seen some success, and I've also had a few other friends that are folks that went through the prison system and are now trying to make sure that the folks are not doing the errors that they did. Mike, and I'm trying to think of Mike's last name, definitely Otis Lyons, and a number of others are part of that and all in that space. So we do know that folks can go through the system and can still find ways to get other people not to make their mistakes, whatever those mistakes were.
That's right. And so I would basically tell anybody that God is able to do far more abundantly more than you can think or even ask, according to the
Mhm.
power that's working within you. So just like I said, it starts with you. That's the best advice I can tell you is it starts with you, not looking around, not looking at the next person, but it starts with you. But I would love to work with anybody. So just like I said, my website is www.tressamitchener.com, and my Instagram is at Tressa Mitchener.
Appreciated everything. Truth, before we get ready to get on out of here, I got a couple of PSAs that I will play as we get out of the door. And of course, that same video that started us all off will be right after those PSAs. But any messages of positivity and ways that you can tell folks about in that sense, and also about this amazing event that is coming up in Houston, if you want to give another plug for that so folks will know that they need to be in attendance. And if I win that lottery, I'll try to be there as well. But right now, I got to win that lottery in order to get
We
those
gotta
tickets.
have you there, Mark. We gotta have you there. Well, my coaching is the conscious you, and I'm in the works of putting all that together. Is to elevate your consciousness and awake, and keep you awake, and show you how you can remain elevated and how it can change your life in every realm and stages of your life. So I'm putting that together. It's been in the works for a long time, but it's just so many other things I put it on the back. But also to get this event in there, the conscious you is coming. So I'll put that out later, maybe on our podcast when we're on Sundays. But the My Prince Experience Symposium, special guest Mayor McLean, right here in front of you, beautiful being, will be at the symposium. We'll be doing a panel similar to this, talking about spirituality, talking about our experiences with Prince, our and just who he was, spiritual nature, and just the journey of what we do and what we've been talking about here this past couple of hours. Is the Prince Experience book read, where I wrote a whole heap of things in 2018 on the 9th, and the 10th and 11th is the My Prince Experience Symposium, all being held in Houston, Texas. And you can find the tickets on Eventbrite. Maya McLean is our special guest and entertainment. So if you think this conversation is off the hook, Teresa, you are welcome to come. You're going
Mhm.
to be amazed. And I think that like-minded spiritual beings and everybody, is welcome, and especially you, Teresa, and especially you, Mark. And I will leave it there. And Maya, I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to hug.
Yeah. See you soon, darling. It's going to
Yeah.
be beautiful.
Should be an
First,
amazing
Mark, you
event.
gotta come on
I'm gonna try to
and be
see what
on
I
the
can do.
waiting
Like
list
I
for
said, I
Maya.
haven't won that lottery yet, but I'll see what I can do about getting there and all in that space. A lot of times folks do go through unfortunately abusive situations and all that. So the first PSA that I'm going to play is actually a group of very powerful women up in Virginia called the Natasha House, and this is actually a poetry piece that they do, and it's a little bit about what they are all about and all in that space. So with this very powerful conversation, I felt that this was a appropriate video, and then there might be a couple of other PSAs as well. But we're going to get on out of here. But I'll let these ladies check out what the Natasha House is all about and what this very powerful poem is all about as well.
It is a gem, tucked away near a forest, a place where the lost are found. It is a gift of wholeness for those who are ready to receive it. A secret place where peace can be found in stillness. where you can finally stop fighting to survive and just breathe. Just breathe. Where accountability corrects and the word help is not a cuss word. It is the place that was thought of before you ever thought you needed it. It is where forgiveness starts and healing begins. Well, we are taught that when we put our hands to work, we can create some things. As we uprooted the weeds in the garden, it was a reflection of our lives. As we uprooted disappointment, as we uprooted pain, as we uprooted being traumatized. Because God doesn't deal with the surface. He gets to the root of it. We laughed. We shed tears. We shared our stories. We shared our fears, our dreams, our visions, our heart. We were more than just mothers. We were broken women trying to figure out how to become whole again. It became a place where homelessness became hopeless until we reached the bridge of wholeness.
So much.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. Really just all about the money.